14-10. Touchdown, Chargers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chargers Weekly. We are presented by Splitero. As always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, and our guy Jahleel Addae in the content studio today. Guys, still buzzing over a huge statement win, 27-21 over the Chiefs in Brazil. If you guys haven't seen the mini movie, the fans out there, watch that first. A lot of Matt Money Smith and some amazing calls, bro.
Thanks, man. I kind of posted it as well after watching it, and you can't say enough about the media team, the digital team here, and what they put together. I mean, awesome. I'm an old man, so I grew up on Inside the NFL, and I would look forward to NFL films and the voiceovers and the big plays and the epic, idea of a football game. And now that Inside the NFL has kind of gone away, I'm so just grateful and thankful and stoked that the team here does it, because that's what it feels like. It's like an Inside the NFL for only the Charger game from the week before.
21 minutes.
Yeah, 21 minutes.
I wish it was 41 minutes.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Money the man. Got to give money his flowers. We got to give money his flowers.
You don't. You really don't.
Yeah, you got to be able to smell them. People want to give guys their flowers when they're gone. We got to give you your flowers while you're here. But quickly, fellas, that you talked about buzzing, Chris, and it was amazing. First of all, you go 1-0 in the division against a very talented team, former Super Bowl champions in the Chiefs. You're across seas in Brazil, and if people don't know, like I played in London twice, like going over across seas, getting your body adjusted, getting your body work out there, staying with your nutrition and staying focused, right, and staying to the game plan. Like it takes a professional to do that, right? And these guys displayed that. They played lights out, offense, defense, special teams, and it was very impressive. They woke up the NFL world in week one.
So many things to talk about in that game, Money. The lead is Justin Herbert. I mean, just the way he played, how decisive he was with his decisions. He's always been a Pro Bowl quarterback. He looked different, and I don't know how you can even describe it. Just his kind of his aura in the huddle, the slide at the end to seal it. I mean, from the beginning of the game, though, he was dialed in.
Well, I think, look, he's incredible. I mean, we know that, and I think for people that were stuck on, and it was the last game he played, the Houston game, I think it's important to remember you had one player catch passes for 197 yards, and the rest of the wide receivers catch passes for 14 yards. You had an offensive line in front of them that allowed a 53% pressure rate. In this game in Brazil, you had an offensive line that allowed one of the lowest of the week, 26% pressure rate, and he threw passes to 2, 4, 6, 8. He completed passes to 8 different receivers, and 4 of them had over 50 yards. Like that's what it looks like. Like when you have complementary pieces around an all-pro level quarterback, and an offensive line that's going to allow barely zero pressures Mekhi Becton, zero pressures Joe Walt. This is what Justin Herbert's going to look like. So for whatever reason, people, when it goes bad, and I think that's fair for to say it's not just Justin, it's a lot of quarterbacks, but he took a lot of, I thought, unnecessary incoming, and I think he reminded people that when he's healthy and when it looks right, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, he reminded people that he's him, right? And the kids nowadays talk about it, but that's what Justin is, right? He's him. He's the guy. He's the captain of the boat. And when you touched on it, right, this team is probably the most – I've been a part of this organization and been watching this organization for about 12 to 15 years now. This roster around him might be one of the most established, talented rosters that we've seen in the last decade, right? And you said it, offensive line is blocking the tell-off for him. He has weapons out the wazoo, right? And then you have this defense who's playing stifling. The special teams is playing well. So when you put those kind of pieces around him, then you can see the flower in the pot start to bloom, right? And that's what we've seen with Justin. You've seen his confidence. You've seen the options were there. When one option went away, you had Keenan. If Keenan wasn't there, you had QJ. Amari Hampton running the ball, cloud of dust, pounding away, offensive line doing their thing, right, protecting him. Like, it looked beautiful. It looked like they were in stride in like week 9, week 10. So hopefully these guys continue to do what they did.
Yeah, and you lose Rashawn Slater too. Yeah. Joe Alt goes over. Joe Alt may have been the best player on the field. And we were saying that with Justin Herbert on the field. Joe Alt was that good and that dominant. But Money, we talk about the depth on this team, and Omarion looked the part. You have Najee. I mean, that's a 1-2. That's a quality 1-2 punch, especially at fourth quarter football games. To see Keenan and Ladd on the field at the same time. Keenan had that touchdown with Ladd on the same side. And Quentin Johnson, the way he performed, and not to mention a guy like Tyler Conklin. I mean, Conklin had two catches
huge
for
catches.
50 yards.
Yeah.
And then, Will Dissly with a huge, maybe the biggest catch of the game to extend that drive at the end of the game before Justin ices it with his legs. Man, the depth, it really all positions.
Yeah, and I think it's critical moments, right? It's shining, it's what is it that Coach Harbaugh says, giving your best when your best is required. And I think that's what we saw in this game, third down. And you look at Justin on third down, and I think there were 10 third down dropbacks. And of those 10 plays, I want to say 5 went for first downs, 2 went for touchdowns, 1 he used his legs to ice the game on a 3rd and 13. I mean, that tells the story. You look back, and I think, and also I think it's important, we can go through the players and look, the players have to play and execute, but Greg Roman called a heck of a game, man. Mm-hmm. And it started
he
with...
He deserves a game ball, too.
No doubt. I mean, it started with the inactives, when we thought this was going to be bully ball and 22 and 13, and then you get your inactives and you're like, wow, all 6 receivers are active, and you don't have Tucker Fisk or Rondé Gadsden on here. You're going to be playing a lot of 11. And they played a lot of 21 with Scott Matlock. Or, you mentioned the Tyler Conklin. That was that fullback sail route that he caught as a fullback. So he got creative. But, man, you go back and watch the film, and there are guys that are just wide open. Yeah. And it's when you're watching the completion to Ladd, you want to look on the other side of the field, and there's Keenan wide open. There's Tyler Conklin wide open. Like, he did a heck of a job of recognizing what Spagnuolo wants to do. It was an OC-DC showdown on both sides of the ball, and Jesse Minter and Greg Roman got out of here with wins because each of them, I thought, did a masterful job of not pressuring, not telling your ends to get too aggressive against Mahomes, just keep him in there. And I know he got loose with a little bit of runs, but there were, outside of that 4th down throw, there were really none of those Mahomes. I'm extending the play. It's hard to be sticky, as you know, Jahleel, that long, back-breaking throws. And I thought they did a really good job, the coordinators on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Money, you touched on a great point. And I remember playing Mahomes, and the week leading up to Mahomes, we're preparing for him. And they said, well, guys, he likes escaping the B gaps. For y'all at home, do not know what the A and B gaps are. You have your center, you have your guard, you have your tackle. You have your A gaps, your B gaps, your C gaps, right? Mahomes likes to escape through the B gaps. So they called it pass rushing integrity. Stay in your lane, don't rush up the field, kind of cloud the middle, right? And then when they didn't do that, they had a spy that had Dayon spying him. As you've seen, Dayon had the sack, right? So it was just an awesome game plan. The guys executed at a high level, and you've seen the results from it.
By the way, Joe Hortiz is going to join us here in a few minutes to talk about the game and kind of push it forward to the Raiders. But let's dive in a little bit more defensively. And that's one of the things that Darwin said. The toughest thing with Mahomes is just he's a maestro with his legs, and he finds ways to extend plays with his legs. And I think just you didn't see the pass rush as much in this game, but maybe that was more in just, hey, we have to slow Mahomes and make sure that he doesn't beat us with his legs and that gap integrity you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing. I think the gap integrity was what allowed them to have sticky coverage, allowed them to keep Mahomes in the pocket. Because a lot of times guys rush Mahomes and they want to get sacks. And your spin move, you're running TE stunts, you're running tackle stunts, and then guys are getting out of their lanes, the rush lanes. And then what does Mahomes do? He either scrambles through the B gap, he gets a first down, or he scrambles to the B gap, goes lateral, and then he fires a 50-yard bomb over your head, right? And as a DB, people don't understand, like, it's hard enough to have to cover somebody for the first 3 to 4 seconds of the route, right? It's a reactive business as a DB. They know what they're doing. You're playing against the best, fastest, biggest, strongest physical specimens in the world, and you have to react to them. And then once Mahomes escapes, now it's another extended 4 to 5 seconds, and that's where he makes his money, right? It's almost like how Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger used to do, right? Yeah. Unscripted plays, unscripted passes. And I thought the Chargers secondary plastered really well on the wide receivers, and I thought that the rush was really controlled, and it was a lot of integrity, which allowed them to be successful.
Yeah, the other part of that, too, is, when you reckon, and look, there was a decided shift after the first 3 drives that did not go well, and it seemed like Mahomes and DJ made this point in the booth, was just hell-bent on providing explosives. Mm-hmm. We're going to be explosive this year, and it wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't working, and it cost him. You could argue it cost him 3 drives. Now, he missed that one throw to Thornton on the right side that could have been a big play, and Hollywood Brown dropped the ball on the left side that, could have maybe, if he spins out of that, goes. But point being, when they adjusted and it became a quick game, what did you see? 3 tips from Tier Tart, 1 tip ball from Deshaun Hand, like, you got smart players, man. You got smart players, like you said. Don't be going for the hero sack. Think about what's going on. Recognize what the state of the game is and adjust accordingly. And, man, those 3 tip balls by Hayre. Now, look, they weren't the 3 best plays he made with his hands, but they're pretty darn good. And especially on the 2-point conversion, that changed the tone of the game.
The 2-point conversion, the momentum swing back to the Chargers in a little bit of a way. You think you're going to have a tie football game. All of a sudden, Hayre knocks that down. It's 2018. You need that nastiness on the defensive line, though. I'm looking at some of the stats in terms of quarterback hits and sacks. I don't know if you can maybe take us through a game plan on a guy like Patrick Mahomes and maybe why we didn't see as much quarterback hits and sacks. It's really just kind of making sure that he doesn't beat you with his legs, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like how you prepare when you're playing Lamar Jackson, right? I keep talking about it. You have the guys in lane 1 and lane 9. Those are your defensive ends, and they're humming up the field. And then when you hum up the field, you're creating extra gaps for these quarterbacks to escape, right? What they're saying is let's keep Mahomes in the pocket. Many quarterbacks in this league are not patient enough to dink it down. Right. The only quarterback that I played that was patient enough to do that was Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, right? They get frustrated, they get agitated, and they want to take that shot, and then that's when you make them pay. So the Chargers did a really good job. I mean, you talk about the batted passes, that's something that's practiced, right? That's something that's talked about in the film room. Like, look, we're going to rush with integrity. If we can't get to Mahomes, soon as he lets the ball go, I hand the ball and we try to knock it down, right? That's another defensive tactic that you use against a quarterback that you want to keep in the pocket, but you're not sending extra heat. You're not sending aggressive rushers towards him. So, listen, I think the game plan by the defense was absolutely amazing, right? They have to build off it, right? It's a 1 week season,
week to week league.
Week to week league. You're 1-0, but what they did down there in Brazil, it was beautiful. Yeah,
no doubt. And I just think to kind of the last thing is just you mentioned the gap integrity and how well they played the run. It's because I think what happens is you look at a box score and you'll see that Pacheco ran for 5 yards per carry. It wasn't working. Like without Patrick Mahomes scrambling, they effectively shut down the run. And as we a little bit later after we talk to Joe, talk about the Raider game, how important that's going to be and what they're trying to do with Ashton Genty there to give Geno Smith that time in the pocket for play action to work. How important it is to just shut down the run, and I thought they did that. And without those Mahomes scrambles, there would have been no semblance of a run game, and that's what this team is all about. Let's shut that down. It's why they signed the bodies they signed in the offseason, that meat along the interior of that line, and I thought they were incredibly effective. And even think about the one the sweep, the Xavier Worthy sweep, where Tarheeb sets that edge and allows Khalil to catch up and make that shoestring tackle for one of the fastest players in the league, and that was the sort of stuff that might just look like a tackle in the box score, but when you see the way they're playing it, you're like, oh yeah, Jesse Minter's got these guys humming, man.
Yeah, it's crazy because we would always, we would look at stats and the guy might have 2 interceptions or he might have 2 sacks after the game, and it's like, but what does the film look like, right? You talked about it. Like in the box score, it might not look pretty, it might not look jazzy, but when you watch the film, you're like, well, okay, that's why it happened. This is why it happened. And when you turn on the film, the all 22, the Chargers were flying around.
Yeah. It's 6 days later. We could go for like 40 minutes on this game.
It's fun.
We're moving on to Las Vegas, but first, a great interview with General Manager Joe Hortiz. Chargers Weekly is presented by Splitero, helping homeowners access their home equity with no monthly payments. Splitero offers home equity investments, a better way to access the cash you need from your home without getting to go through a bank. Get a lump sum of cash in exchange for a share of your home's future value. Pay off debt, renovate your home, and better your life. Get your free cash estimate at splitero.com/Chargers. All right, as promised, Joe Hortiz joins us on Chargers Weekly. And Joe, you've been in the league a long time. Just where does this trip in Brazil rank for you in terms of just an indelible moment in your career, man?
Yeah, it's cool. The neat thing about the international games is you get a chance to go places you've never been and you probably wouldn't go to if you didn't have the opportunity through the NFL. And, it's neat to go there. And it was fun to see what Brazil was like. And I know we're there just a short amount of time, but neat to see the people of Brazil and the communities that we were going through to practice. And it was a lot of fun for everyone.
Joe, I think the biggest question, for many fans and me as well, when Rashawn Slater went down, obviously Joe moved to the left tackle. and was like, okay, what is it going to look like on the offensive line? But the offensive line against the Chiefs in Brazil absolutely balled, right? Top to bottom.
Yeah.
What can you say about those guys being able to transfer from different positions, play as one when they probably weren't doing it as much in training camp before the injury happened?
Yeah, I think, obviously you never want to see anyone go down, right? And, broke my heart personally for Rashawn. Sure. And, and he was excited to get the contract done and really kick off this year. But credit to all those guys, happened early, had some time to gel. Joe, obviously spending all that time on the left side in college certainly was familiar to him. And but it's really a testament to all of them as pros. Hey, you're communicating with Zion's communicating with someone different now, and they all stepped up and played great. And it's really the work they put in, and credit all goes to them.
When you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, how much of your job is designed specifically about him as the sun and the planets that orbit around him? I just kind of think about how the offense looked last year versus what we saw in that week one and the pieces that you put into place.
Right, yeah. Listen, when I got this job, I was afforded a great opportunity having Justin Herbert as my quarterback. A lot of new GMs have to go out and find a quarterback, and certainly Coach and I, when we got here, we didn't have to do that. And you just want to surround him with as much talent as you can. And I think I said it from the jump. You surround him with as much talent as you can on both sides of the ball, but certainly with offense. Let's get him some playmakers. Let's get him guys that can protect for him, ball carriers, everything. So that's always the goal, and it will be as long as I'm here, just to constantly put as much talent around Justin Herbert, because he is the guy that this team revolves around, and you saw it the other day.
Justin just. Yeah, everybody's been saying it. He just, for some reason, just looks different. You know it when you see it. And you go back to 6-7 weeks ago. Mike Williams retires. 3-4 weeks into camp, Keenan comes in, and we're seeing Keenan and Ladd on the field together on third down. And I feel like it just brings this dimension, Joe, to the offense that wasn't there last year. But just the fact that Keenan can come in here and pick up right where he left off with Justin. What was your reaction to seeing what he was able to accomplish on the field last Friday?
Yeah, we talked about it before we even actually brought Keenan in. Hey, if we get Keenan back here, we're going to be fired. There's going to be third down plays and touchdowns that, just the chemistry that him and Justin have. And Keenan's such a pro, and that's what when you bring Keenan back in. It's like he knows how to get open. He knows space. He's got spatial awareness. He knows defensive structure. So he's just going to be such a resource for us. And then you got the playmakers and Ladd and Q out there, and just there's a lot of options for Justin, and it's going to be fun to watch it go.
Yeah.
So Joe, you talked about bringing in talent. We've been touching on the offensive side, but when you came in here, Deion was here, right? And he is ascended so much as a leader. Yeah. Seeing him grow from year 1 to year 2, right? And he's just continued to grow each and every year as I've been here, part of this organization. What do you see from him, not only as a leader on the field, but off the field, that makes him the player that he's becoming to be?
Yeah, he's fun. He's we actually interviewed Deion when I was in Baltimore, and just his passion for the game. I remember talking to him in Indy, came out, and we kind of laughed about it when pre-draft last year in 2024. He was like, yeah, I thought you guys were going to take me. And I was like, well, we might have, but you were gone. And I'm glad we didn't, and I'm glad you're here. And just to watch his growth has been awesome. He loves the game. He's so charismatic. His energy's great. Smart football player, and obviously talented. Yeah. But the success he had early last year, you just seen it match his intensity for the game off the field and his passion for the game off the field. And, he's grown into a great leader for us, and it's great to have good young leaders like him.
I want to go back to the Keenan thing, because, just even if you just look at the numbers, right, it's slot usage, it's high. It's 80% for Ladd. It's 80% for Keenan in 2024. What was that conversation like when because I think a lot of people on the outside were like, how's this going to work? Is it going to diminish Ladd a little bit, or can these two guys play together? And then we see it, and it's like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So what was that conversation like with you and the coaches about how this thing could actually kind of look like it did?
Yeah, it's having faith in the coaching staff and Greg and his staff to say, hey, can we put them out there at the same time? And absolutely. You can line guys up in different spots. The thing about both Ladd and Keenan is they're pros. They know how to get open wherever they are. And so the whole slot, Ladd can play outside, Keenan can play outside. We did that the other day. And so it really wasn't a big concern about having them both on the field. And you just put your best playmakers out there and let him go be playmakers.
You had Q in the slot a bunch too. I mean, it's wild to see how even that was.
Right, and he created the mismatch. And look at Q's touchdown. He was in the slot and created the mismatch on the safety, and it paid dividends. So, the more versatile you can be as an offense, the harder you are to defend.
Joe, I think one of the things that we forget last year was Justin missed such a big chunk of training camp, and then he had that injury early in the year. Being able to be healthy year 2 with Greg Roman, it seems like those guys really clicked this offseason. I don't know if you could just walk us through just that relationship and just how it's really paid dividends early in the year so far.
Yeah, Greg does a great job communicating with Justin and vice versa. And they're constantly talking, one about the game plan, about what Justin likes, things that we think will work. And really Greg does a great, I've obviously been with Greg a long time, and he does a great job always communicating with the quarterbacks and pushing the quarterbacks to be their best. And I think he did a lot of that this offseason with Justin and encouraging them. And Justin is the type of guy that really can take the bull by his own horns, by his horns and do it himself. And but it's been great, the chemistry and the evolution of our offense to watch it grow. And the injury last year, it limited Justin. It certainly did. And now you're seeing 100% Justin out there, and he's a dual threat. And I've watched him run those gassers, and the only reason I know he's human is because he's sweating. He's not breathing heavy, and I think about it, like last year, I'm like, he's not even breathing heavy. Like, how do we? This guy doesn't even seem real. He's so fast and athletic, and him using his legs is just another dimension that teams have to defend.
Joe, this is one that I'm excited about. Being a former player, listen, it's one of the most scrutinized businesses that you can possibly be in. And we talked about Q, and his first few years obviously has the label of having major drops in games, gets a bad concussion in the preseason, right? Unlucky, and then he comes out in Brazil on foreign soil and goes for 2 tutties, right? Can you talk about, for the people at home don't know, in this business and having that kind of resiliency, how big is that for a guy like him?
That's huge. All right, so that's really the separator, right? You played in this league. You have to be resilient. You have to overcome adversity, bad games, and I've talked to Q about it. And I got here, and I like Q coming out of college, and I think Q was a hell of a pick by the Chargers before I got here. And he's physical, talented, great kid, passionate about the game, loves the game, works hard, and certainly has elite athletic traits. And receivers drop balls. They do. And I watched some games this weekend where I saw really good receivers dropping balls. I'm not going to name them, but we know who they are. They're household names, and it's going to happen. It's how you respond and how you bounce back. And Q's had some tough games in the past, and he had a tough game last year, and he responded. And I feel like, hey, you just got to wash it and move on, and Q's doing that, and he's letting his athletic talent and playmaking ability shine.
I think you have a type when it comes to offensive linemen. You draft arguably the biggest left tackle in the well, he's left tackle now, but one of the biggest tackles in the league. You sign the biggest offensive lineman in the league. Bozeman's a giant center. Is that fair to say? Because going back and watching through the film, there's a couple of those blocks that Mekhi gets next level, and he just wrecks dudes. It's pretty fun to watch.
Throws them out of the club.
Throws them out, exactly. Is that fair to say? Like, when you are building an offensive line, is that what you're kind of looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to protect the quarterback. Big protects the quarterback. Certainly big athletes are the best you can get, right? And but big, tough, physical is what we wanted to be when we got here, and that's what we're going to continue to strive to be. And it pays dividends in the run game. It keeps the pocket from collapsing on Justin, and that's what you're trying. You let Justin sit back there clean and just pick him apart.
He likes Space Jam Monsters money.
Yeah.
I was, if I could though, just to piggyback on that, because that was kind of the big question, especially coming off the Houston game as the last game that people saw. How are we going to what is this going to look like the following year?
Right.
Just coming in with Bozeman and Zion and what you saw from them last year, why you were comfortable with that group.
Yeah, those guys are, again, I go back to players being pros. They're so committed to the craft. They work so hard. They're both smart, tough, intelligent players, great teammates. Like, okay, yeah, maybe they have a bad game here and there. Everyone will. Everyone does. And to knock a player because of a bad game, or I know what they're about, and they're about winning, they're about being great teammates, and they're about putting the time in, the work in, and so I trust them. And then you get a chance to add a guy like Mekhi, and it has a ripple effect. And so yeah, we felt good about going into it this year, and then their versatility, and Zion showed that some of that in camp, working at center, and I've seen Bose play left guard in this league, and so you got some versatile guys in there that work together, understand the game, and can play off each other, and that's what you want.
Joe, this obviously predated you, but just the big talking point going into this game where you lose 7 straight to the Chiefs. You had a lead in 5 of those 7 games, tied in the 6th. It felt like a moment, and I realize there are 16 more games to go, but when Justin ices that game and you close the way that you closed here with that huge bat down for the 2-point conversion, just little moments like that in an effort to close a football game. What do those moments do for a team in terms of just breeding confidence and momentum?
Yeah, well, certainly you walk out of the game with momentum. Now we got to keep it going, right? Yeah. It really is on to the next game. The moment itself was great, and yes, I may not have been here for part of that 7 games, but I had my own negative streak against them when I walked in here. So I've certainly been on the other end of some tough losses against them. So it felt great for everyone, and there's no doubt you want to be excited about it. It's a big win, like Coach said, and we all felt that. But now it's time to move on and get to the Raiders and try to keep going.
Joe, you keep saying it felt great, and I remember playing and going to London, and it could be an away game, but going to London, going across seas, and there's nothing that feels better than the ride home.
The ride home.
The ride home. Like, we're talking X's and O's, but just tell us how emotional, how exciting. What was that flight? It was what, 14, 15
12,
hours?
I think it was 12 hours.
It was under 12. It was like 11.
Okay, 11 hours with your best friends, right?
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Yeah, it feels great. It does. Like, the negative about being in LA, we have a good number of long flights home, so the more you can get that you're enjoying the flight home, the better. Yeah. And to start off with a 12-hour flight back after a win, it was fun. The guys were fired up. Everybody, the whole plane was fired up. There was a great buzz on it, excitement. You just even walking through the airport, you weren't dreading getting on a 12-hour flight. Definitely. You were looking forward to the 12-hour flight to celebrate and enjoy it. So rides home after a game, after a win. Thing. It's a happy ride. It makes it a shorter trip.
Definitely.
We saw a couple already this week, but just constantly churning. The practice squad, obviously a bit of a hit there with DP, with Denzel Perriman, and we see Malga get put back on. Kind of walk us through how, I think for fans that are watching and listening, like what your day is like as it pertains to the practice squad, and how many rosters you're looking at, and how many players you're looking at, and how much churn really kind of goes into that, because we'll see those guys called up and play in games this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So the practice squad, we do a lot of work. Our pro scouts do a lot of work in the preseason. We evaluate every team, every player who's cut. So we have a list of, do we want to claim them? 2, do we want to try to get them over here at our practice squad if they're available? And then 3, if they're not on a practice squad, who's out there that we call it the short list, the ready list. And so who's out there where, 1, they may be an upgrade to our practice squad if needed, and then 2, if we have an injury, we need to add depth at a position, who's out there ready. Obviously, we're familiar with Maga because he was here, knows our defense, knows our special teams, so he's an easy add. But you're always looking out there. We did it with Amar. We brought him in last week, a player that our pro guys, Lou and Denny and Tyler, all liked, and so got a chance to add him, and been excited about him. But we're always constantly looking to see, you can improve the team through practice squad, you can improve the team through the bottom of the 53, but we're always kind of looking to see if we can do that, and we won't stop, because our goal is to make the team better, not only through the draft, not only through free agency, but over the course of the year, and trying to be at our best at the end of the year.
Joe, just pushing it forward to Monday night, and really just these first 3 weeks, it's very rare to play 3 straight divisional games to open up a season, and everybody has a different schedule. Some teams will play 4 of their final 5 against divisional opponents,
right.
But just I don't know if you could walk us through just the heightened awareness that you guys have had since that schedule came out, and just watching that mini movie and hearing your calls. It was so good. But just hearing Coach in July talking about the division and just how important to get off to a good start. I don't know if you could just kind of walk us through what this place has been like, knowing that you start right away with the Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos.
Yeah. I will say this, and in the NFL, it really has to be a one-game season each week, and so but what's coming behind it, and so we're certainly aware that we have 3 division games out the bat, and you look at it as a chance. It's a great opportunity for us to get off to a great start within the division and take it one game. We got a victory versus the Chiefs. Now it's make it stand up, make it matter against the Raiders, and then we'll move on the next week. But you certainly have a chance to see where you stand right out the gate and give yourself a good footing for the rest of the season.
Joe, since we're touching on the Raiders, and everyone knows Charger Nation is just Raiders week, you know what time it is, right? So listen, you look at the Raiders and you see Geno, right? And you see Genty, and you see Jacoby Myers, and on the defensive side you got Max Crosby, who wrecks games. And I know you're watching film like the coaches. What do you see from the Raiders that stands out to you, and what do you think that the Chargers have to do as a team this week to be successful?
I think we got to play our brand of football, and we got to be disciplined, and which we were last week, and just any errors we made, clean up on it, but trust what we do, certainly, and play our game. But we got to be ready. Like Geno, I was watching that game, and he made some spectacular throws in that game. I mean, he was on point, and he's a talented player, and who's kind of went through some of that adversity, right, and perseverance, and it's paid off for him. And certainly we know Max well, and when you watch them, they played a good physical game. Really respect the way they play. They got after it on both sides of the ball, physical and aggressive. So it'll be that type of game, I think.
Physical aggressive would be your D-line. Just interested in because you had the money to go make a splash if you wanted to, and there were some big-time D tackles out there. But just kind of listening to Coach Minter about throwing volume at it instead. And you look at the game against the Chiefs, Deshaun with a huge sack, Tier with the 3 batted balls. Just kind of why, or I shouldn't say why, but the idea behind taking that approach, behind going to get Naquan and Deshaun and kind of filling that with volume, because it certainly worked in week 1.
Yeah, so depth is huge in the NFL, all right, and especially at a position where you're going to rotate players in and out, and you don't want to drop off. So if you can add a lot of good players versus one good player, to me it's volume and it's waves, and so they can't take a play off when we're bringing somebody in who may not have quote unquote started the game, and that's the philosophy. And we want guys that fit our scheme, big physical players, and that's what they all are.
They're big.
And they know how to play with technique, and they just fit what we do. And Deshaun, I've always had a lot of respect for him as a player, just scouting him and watching him on opponents over the years, and to be able to bring him in, Naquan, a young talented player who we think's ascending, and then able to retain Tier was exciting. And then and we had a Tito, and we already knew going into free agency where Justin was heading. We saw what he was doing in the offseason. We saw the gains he was making in the weight room. Sorry.
You said Justin.
Sorry. Well, we're staying on D-line. So we kind of had a good idea. We kind of had a good idea where Justin Herbert was going to. So Boygby, like we knew what we were having, what we had coming back, and the chance to add multiple players to it really felt like helped solidify the whole group.
Just as a general manager, you're building for this year. You're always building for the future as well. I don't know if you could take us just from last year to this year, and just the culture that you and Coach Harbaugh set in year 1, win 11 games, but just to see what week 1 looked like this year. What are the biggest maybe areas of improvement and just strides that you guys have made in this program from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I think when we got here, the goal was to improve depth and just make the whole 53-man roster better. And I think we did that the first year, and we just added to it this past year. And just having versatile players and guys, if somebody goes down, someone can step up, like a Troy Dye, who we had last year, and we brought him back. And Denzel goes out early, and Troy comes in and plays great football for us. So I think from a roster standpoint, you look at our wide receiver room, honestly, me personally, and again, it's where I've been, but to me, it's the best receiver room I've been a part of, and that's no knock against it, but that's what I believe in terms of the talent that's out there and the depth of the room. So, so we continue just to try to make the roster as strong as we can, and I think that showed the last week. But really, it all comes down to the guys on the field, and the coaches, and they did a hell of a job in the game, and it just shows their belief in themselves and their commitment to the team, and I think that played itself out on last Friday. Yeah.
So, Joe, usually being around the NFL, right, there's coaches that have specific schemes, right? And there's the front office that may not understand the scheme. So the front office are bringing in guys who they think may, fit who are available, but they don't actually fit what the coaches want to do, the body type, the physicality, what they look for in a linebacker or a safety. Can you tell the people at home, because the reason why the Chargers are so successful is because our front office knows what this coaching staff wants, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to build, what's the scheme.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how much work goes into that? Are you staying in meetings with them?
Yeah.
Are you talking about it every day, or what's that look like?
We talk about it a lot, and my familiarity obviously with Greg and Andy Bischoff and Mike Devlin, working with them in Baltimore, and Jesse Minter on defense, and so I'm familiar with them, but just because I'm familiar with them doesn't mean the rest of our staff is familiar with them. And so it's the constant communication and our staff being on the same page with them. And that's conversations. That's free agency, in the draft. But when we first all got here, bringing the coaching staff in and talking to our scouts, our college scouts and our pro scouts, this is what we want in a D lineman. This is what we want on the inside backer, an edge, outside backer, safeties, corners, so them knowing what we're looking for, locking it in, and let's go find those guys. And that's what you do. You got to find players that fit what you do. You can't force a square peg into a round hole, because we'd be sitting there like, the coach would be like, what are you doing? And we'd be like, let's get guys we want here.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft. And you know what? I got to be honest. There's times where people may be like, why aren't they going after this player? Because he just doesn't fit. He's not our type of player. Not the person. Might be a great person, but just doesn't fit what we want to do offensively or defensively. So,
last one for me, Joe. You look at the box score, and it probably doesn't tell the story, I don't think, just going back and rewatching it. But just your thoughts on your first round pick and Amari, and it felt like he was this close to popping one for about 40, 50, and you could just kind of see it, just sort of what you took away from that.
Yeah. You just, hey, a read here, maybe a step here, maybe a block here. Yeah. But the way he ran the ball, he was so physical. You look at that fourth down conversion, he earned that, and you watch the runs he had, like the extra yards he was getting after contact, hitting the hole with burst and acceleration and violence. And then he did a great job in pass protection. Outstanding job in pass protection. You're asking a rookie back against a complex defense to go in and produce. As a pass protector for Justin, did a fantastic job. So just excited to where he's going to go from there.
Joe, just to put a button on this conversation, man, I want to give you an opportunity to just brag on your staff a little bit. To go 6,000 miles to Brazil and to, account nutrition, hydration, sleep, everything that goes into a trip like this for your players to perform at the highest level, man. It was pretty cool to see everything that went into it, just the people that are not playing in the games and the impact that they had.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's so many to name, but just like Marco, our in training, and then our whole training staff, Marco and Sal and everyone, they did a great job. Smitty, getting all the equipment down there, and his staff, phenomenal. John Wiedmeyer and Christina DeRuiter setting up all the travel and logistics. Stetson with all the security. Bill, just phenomenal.
So many layers to that trip like that.
Grant and Kate with nutrition, like everything. People have no idea. Josh, phenomenal job setting up all the media, and his staff.
Josh
did a great job. He's right here, so I had to make sure I got him in there. But no, there's so much that goes into it. It's not a one-day road trip to Las Vegas. There's a ton that goes into it, and man, it was seamless, and it was everyone did a great job. And if I didn't mention someone, I'm sorry, but it doesn't go without recognition, and it just allowed us to treat it like a normal trip, and the coaches and the players, and it was really it was great. It was really a heck of a job by everyone involved, and the preparation that went in, the meetings, the advanced trips to Brazil in May, all the stuff that they did to make that seamless was great.
What a way to start 2025.
Nice stuff.
Let's do it, baby.
Joe, you're the best.
Appreciate it,
We
Joe.
will see
Appreciate
you
it.
in Vegas.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Head to San Francisco and experience the Super Bowl with On Location, the official hospitality provider of the NFL and proud partner of the Los Angeles Chargers. Secure packages that bundle verified tickets with exclusive access to pregame parties featuring renowned entertainment and top-of-the-line food and drinks, plus immersive postgame field celebrations. On Location delivers unforgettable experiences so you can create memories that will last a lifetime. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket package today. All right, we appreciate Joe giving us so much time before this another national televised game, Monday Night Football against the Raiders. And, guys, we saw the Raiders beat the Patriots. And, again, it's week 1. We don't know how good anybody is at this point. But Geno looked really good, 24-34, I think 362 yards. And it's going to be a challenge slowing him and Brock Bowers. And, of course, Ashton Jeanty. You mentioned right before the break, though, that the numbers weren't there, but they're trying to do some stuff with the rookie.
I think if you don't watch I just said the whole watch the film. That's not what I'm saying. If you don't watch the game back, you would look at the box score and see Ashton Jeanty average 2 yards per carry. I think 6 of those were late in the second half when they were just bleeding the clock. Mm-hmm. And they were like carries for loss. It was like carry loss of 2, loss of 4, loss of 2. So it adjusted. When you watch it back, dude's he's what you expect him to be, man. There's juice, there's physicality, there's yards after contact. They were blocking it up, and he was ripping off some pretty darn good runs early on in that game. But to me, and you already said it, 362 yards, 10.6 per attempt. Geno, it was, I hate to say it, man, it's Raider week, but it was a fun watch, man. It was fun to watch what Chip Kelly was doing and scheming these guys wide open, 20, 25 yards down the field for chunk plays all game long, man. It was impressive to watch.
Yeah, and he's their first round pick, and they're gonna feed him the ball. They're gonna get him going. That's without a doubt, right? And I think when you watch the Raiders, they were most successful in the air, and the Chargers love to play the too high safety look. So if you're able with a 7-man box to stop Ashton Jeanty and stop that running game, then you get to keep the roof over the top of the defense, right? You get to play back, keep everything in front of you. Like you said, Chip Kelly did a great job of, designing plays that got guys open. Jacoby Myers is a really good threat for them at the receiver position. Obviously, Brock Bowers, we know what he can do. He's a generational
unicorn.
Yeah. I don't want to say generational because everyone throws that word around now,
Yeah,
but he's
he
generational.
He is.
He's generational. So, listen, playing the too high shell, having Duran at the big nickel, obviously a lot of teams like to put speed into the field, motion, bring your nickel into the box. Now he has to take on 300-pound guards, but having Duran at the big nickel, I think having 2 safeties behind him with the Lohi, right, and Elijah Molden, you keep your cap on the defense, but you're able to play the run, and I think they'll have a good formula for him.
If it's Thursday, I know Brock got banged up in that game. Let's just assume he plays. How do you defend him? Do you defend him with Derwin? Like, what are the maybe 1 or 2 ways that are maybe the best way to try to slow him a little bit?
Derwin James, that's why Derwin James is paid what he's paid, right? He's a guy that can take away your best tight end. He's a guy that can cover your number 3 wide receiver. But there was a time and place when we played Rob Gronkowski, and it was the Tom Brady era, and it was a way that Coach Spags would kind of try to take him out of the game. If he's lined up by the core, if he's split 2 yards from the core, the defensive end that was to his side didn't rush right away. The defensive end that was to his side, if he was lined up in the core or 2 yards or less, 2 yards or less, they would always jam him first before he got out of his route. Right, so you're putting a big body on him. You're just basically mauling him for 1 to 2 seconds, let him get into his release, and then rush. So that's a way that I can see the Chargers, using their defensive tactics to slow him down.
Yeah, I think in what you saw, they put on film with Michael Mayer, they're running a lot of those 2 tight end sets, and we forget that Mayer was, graded out as maybe the best tight end in the draft, 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So they've got 2 top tight ends. They've got explosives in Thornton and Trey Tucker, who had those big the 2 big catches. The one thing that I think you can maybe point to is, they were down Christian Gonzalez. I don't think the New England front is what the Chargers front is. And so I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. And the one thing you can do with Geno is he'll stand in there, man. He'll take the shots, and you can, he threw one pick, and you can kind of get to him, and you can put some hits on him, and you can maybe adjust things a little bit. So kind of coming out of the Chiefs game and people sort of getting a little worried about the pressure numbers and the lack of sacks and the hurries and the hits that weren't there, this is a game I'd be looking at because that offensive line did look pretty leaky. It did not look like it was holding up. Geno was just, standing tall, and he was willing to take those shots, and he had guys open, comfortably where he could throw with some anticipation and maybe take a little bit off with some more timing that I don't think you're going to be able to do with Tarheeb and Dante Jackson out there. But I think that's probably what we're looking for is let's see if we can get these numbers to maybe look a little more like we thought they were going to.
Yeah, you guys, we flip it, and Max Crosby can destroy a game. Will Dissly, Scott Matlock, I think maybe helping Trey Pipkins a little bit on that side. What do we do to slow Max Crosby?
He's the guy that you come in and it's a Wednesday and you put him on the board and you take your little red beam and you say, listen, this is what they call a game wrecker, right? And we can't allow him to wreck the game, right? So if they have any success against us, it can be because Max Crosby's going crazy. So when you say that, you put in chips, you slide your protection, you're doubling him, you're running at him. Why do you run at him? To slow down his pass rush, right? Because if you run at him, we just talked about it with the gap integrity. If you're just dropping back, and his ears are pinned back, he's rushing. Right now, if you're running at him, now you're making him check his feet. You're making him slow down. He knows he can't just take up off the field, up the field. Excuse me, because if he takes up the field, that creates a running lane. So that's the ways you slow down a pass rusher. People are like, well, he's a beast against the run. Well, yeah, but you have to run at him to slow down his feet. If not, he's going to be going balls to the wall all day.
Yeah, and I think sort of one thing to remember too is look, Pete is Pete. And no matter what the league has done, he's going to run a single high. And so I think you're going to have opportunities out there, and Justin Herbert is someone who, can see it, can pull that trigger quickly. And so I think there's going to be opportunities out there for him. I think you saw it with the blitz last week against Spags, when they're trying to bring some more pressure up front, he was able to kind of dissect that pretty easily. So the one thing to remember, though, is, look, the Chiefs are a really good defense. They're coordinated very well. They have great players at all levels, led by Chris Jones. Karlaftis is, one of the more underrated edges. Okay. But I think when you look along that front and you're talking about, Chris Jones, Karlaftis, and Mike Dana, and now here, and we saw it with Tyree Wilson, he had a sack. Malcolm Kuntz a little underrated. So I think you start kind of looking at this Raider front, and I do think, especially because Max Crosby's in the conversation, and he just might be the best pass rusher, the best edge in the league. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be a little bit more of a challenge, and I think that's why it was you put it perfectly, Chris, in asking about that right side, because Joe Alt pitched a shutout, and I think when you were talking about pressures, it's kind of coming from that right side a little bit. The good thing about that is, that's where Justin's eyes are, so he can see as long as Alt's over there, and I think like we saw, 4 years ago with Rashawn and Chase Young, when he went head to head with Chase Young, and then Max Crosby was pretty quick when they were like going to the other side. Yeah. And I think that's what you're going to see is I would suspect that's going to be the same thing that we see, and that's a lot easier for Justin to contend with than it coming from his blind side and him not feeling it.
Yeah, and you got the guys to help him out too, with guys like Matlock and Dissly. As we wrap it, listen, one of the fun storylines is always going to be Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. I think they're 6-6 all time against each other, both in the college and in the pros, if I'm not mistaken. Going back from, I think it was Stanford. I think
Jim was 3-1 at Stanford against Pete, and I believe he was 4-5 against him in the NFL because he lost the NFC Championship game that year, that Crabtree-Sherman play. So 8-6 favored Jim.
8-6
or 7-6 favored
Jim. Okay, is it 7-6? Okay, I thought I saw 6-6.
So it's because of the NFC Championship game. You probably missed the playoff.
So anyway, it's neck and neck.
Yeah.
And these guys have been dogged competitors for decades, and to do it on this stage in the AFC West, Monday Night Football. I know it's got to be cool for you, Muddy, because you've called some of those games before, and you've been around that rivalry.
I called the What's Your Deal game. Yeah,
the What's Your Deal game.
I called the What's Your Deal game, the 55, and it was 55-21, 55-23, something like that. Basically, I think it ended Pete's career. I think that was the game where he was like, I'm out of here. Yeah. It was Toby Gerhart just
Toby was a beast.
Oh yeah, I mean he put it on him, man, to the point where I remember talking to I think we talked to Toby afterward, and he had said, he goes, I'm not going to name names, but there was someone that said, come on, man, aren't we done with this? He goes, and we still had about a quarter to go. And they were like, we're still doing this?
And it's the battle of the personalities. Like Jim Harbaugh, great personality. Pete Carroll, great personality. Both of these coaches respectfully are talked about as player coaches, right? They're very energetic. They bring good vibes. So, man, it's going to be a fun one Monday night.
But knowing both of these guys, what do you think that locker room is going to be like on both sides ahead of this game? It's going to be chippy.
It's the Raiders.
It's the
Raiders. Like,
rivalry,
I don't care if I was the head coach. It's the Raiders. Y'all go out there and it's the Raiders. Let's get to it.
Yeah,
right?
it's gonna be. It's definitely. It's gonna be fun. I think the Raiders are a lot better than maybe a lot of people think, and should make for a great game. Just quickly to wrap it for me, Chris. I think what I'm really looking forward to is I want to see Amarian hit his head on the goalpost, man. I think he's got that. I think we saw it. And you look at the back seven of the Raiders, and it's not quite at the level of where the Chiefs are, especially at their linebacking level. And I think we saw enough where it's like, ooh, man, that was close. That was this close. And I feel like you got a shot to get one of those to pop this week for Amarian.
Yeah, and the fact that that Greg Roman and company, they almost used the pass to set up the run in some ways. They definitely did on Friday. So Amarian came very close a couple of times. Maybe this is the game where he breaks off a 50, 60-yard run, Jahleel.
Yeah, I would love to see it. We talked about it earlier in the podcast, and just 2 yards in a cloud of dust, and the way he runs behind his pads, and the way his legs are always churning, and he's not going down on first contact. So, listen, he's going to be fine. Obviously, Hortiz talked about his pass protection and how difficult that can be for a rookie running back. So to see him be very good in his pass protection, listen, those home run hitters will come. But I will say this, Raiders week, those fans don't like the Chargers. The Chargers don't like the fans. They used to throw batteries at us. They used to talk about our mom, our dad, our aunt.
Right.
Like we pull into that stadium halfway through the game, you start to smell something. You're like, what's that? It's a great atmosphere, man.
Yeah. What was the smell?
I don't know.
Yeah. It was me hanging out in the end zone. That's what it was. Yeah.
All right, guys. Our thanks to Joe Hortiz for money and Jahleel. I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly. Monday Night Football against the Raiders.